Hi, friends. It's Brea Katrin here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a coach in self-directed neuroplasticity. I am also a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. I love him. I think that he is the answer. His love is the answer to all of our problems, and it's simplistic and sort of overarching. And as that might sound, I believe it with all my heart. And my goal is for people to understand that, receive it, walk in it, and I give tools for how to do that with brain retraining through being healed. Most of the people that come to me are already quite sick. But as they go through this process, they get to be transformed in every way and walk in a whole new life. It does take discipline. Something popping up on my computer, 1 second. It does take discipline, but at the end of the day, God promises us freedom. He says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That if the Son sets you free, that you are free indeed. It's a truth that sets you free, that He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the bread of life. He is the resurrection of the life. He is life. Apart from me, you can do nothing, Jesus says. We have to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Apart from whom we have no life. There's no life. It's only in him. Every good thing that comes is from him. Everything. Every little thing that is good. We were created for love. We were made for love. And brokenness and disease comes from a lack of love, a deprivation of love, a brokenness in love. I believe that with all my heart. I am not saying that I don't believe in doctors and what they do, but they are so limited and they only have one piece of the puzzle. They don't look at the whole person perspective. They're like that, that story of the man. There's the men with the eyes closed, and they're told to touch this animal in front of them and describe what an elephant looks like, and one's got the tail and one's got the trunk, and that's all they have. They only see a piece. It's part of an elephant, but it's not the whole thing. So with doctors, when we're looking to them as this authority, they really, truly do not have the whole answer. And oftentimes we get stuck in these loops, believing them and the physical and looking to only the physical and not to the whole person perspective. So yes, doctors can help, but more often than not, when people keep going down these paths and they're stuck in sickness, doctors are not really going to be the answer. I'm not trying to put doctors down, but they don't have it all. Only Jesus does. Not me, Jesus. I am not telling you that I have the answer to your problems. Jesus is the answer to all of our problems. So I had made a video recently, and I was trying to help people connect with this idea of seeing everything through a different lens, seeing even salvation through a healing lens. With how do we look at sin? Like, how do we look at ourselves? How do we see what's really happened and why we're acting the way that we are? And through a lens of woundedness. That's what trauma is in the Greek. My one friend said to me, she's like, I know what you're talking about, but I think most people hear the word sin and they hear moral failure. And I'm like, I know. I'm not saying I haven't had to go through my own journey with that as a believer now for, gosh, almost 5 years finally. Oh, the honeymoon is still strong. It's never ending, never ending. I just keep drawing closer to him. So I allow him into my heart. One of my own instances where I struggled with sin in a certain situation, ultimately I was fearing something that happened that was going to cost a lot of money if my insurance wasn't going to cover it. And I panicked. And I asked somebody to lie for me. They wouldn't. Somebody else in my life was suggesting that certain things I need to do and say, and very panicky. And in the end, I caught myself, and I even in front of my kids, actually, I asked my ex when he was picking them up, and I told him about the situation the day of as this was happening. And then we were in the middle of it, and he was helping me. Thank you, Jesus, for a great ex-husband who came to the rescue. And I asked him in front if he would say something to the insurance. And he kind of looked at me with that, like, so kind of him, because he didn't put me down in front of the kids. It's like, we'll talk about it. And after, when the Lord and I were talking, I just felt so much shame. And I felt so just like, oh God, like embarrassment, and just like, I was like, God, like, what do I do in this situation? Because I didn't do anything wrong, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And I came to the Lord, and I gave it to him, and I repented. By repented just mean I just came to him and yielded over and said, I don't want to go that way. I want to trust you. You're my provider. Now, I had a strong foundation already of trusting God at this point with my finances, especially because I went from nothing. And he's been able to just continue to provide for me. And it's great, because the more that I stepped out, I was able to see his faithfulness and all that. So it certainly wasn't a perpetual thing that I was walking in, but I can't say I'm perfect. There's definitely been times where I've just been like, oh, okay, like, where are we going? Is everything okay? What do I need to do? Do I need to do anything? Do I need to change anything? To make sure that my children and I are provided for. Like, that's a real need that he wants to fill, right? There are things that we do need to do. We do need to work. I can't just sit around and just expect God just to rain money down on me. But in that moment, when I came to him, I felt condemnation. But as I kept going through it, literally God provided in every way where I should not have been provided. I did not lie, but I did not qualify for insurance for other reasons. And they still provided it for me. And I was like, wow, God, like, he wasn't there punishing me. He wasn't there condemning me. And I went, and afterwards, I think it was afterwards. Well, it was during the middle of all of this. I said, you know what? I think I need to go and apologize to Aaron in front of my kids and talk to them about what I did was wrong. And I panicked. And I did that. It was hard, but I did bring it into the light and say, this wasn't right, what I did. We don't do that. I trust God, and he's providing. And he did. And I brought it up, I was in Bible college at the time. I brought it up, and I cried in front of people as I told them. And I heard one person go, oh, when I told the story, like, how could you do that? Almost, I felt the pain of like judgment. I don't think they meant it that way. That was just a reaction. And someone else was like, no, you're just panicking. You're just panicking. I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I wasn't trusting God, right? It was a stress response. Sure. Would it have been a sin? Absolutely. But that's my whole point, is that it was a stress response in a stressful situation. And I was triggered in that moment, like I talked about in my other video, with somebody who is really hungry and hasn't eaten, and then maybe there's loud noise or some certain situation or a person that comes up that just the way they speak or something, they've been wounded by somebody, or maybe even by that person in the past, that it's easier for them to either judge or lash out or whatever. That's a stress response. So, but is it sin? Yeah, it is. That's my point, is that it's not a moral failure. Yes, it is, in a sense of like brokenness and not walking in love. But God's not sitting here saying moral failure, moral failure, more, I can't even say it, moral failure the way that many think he is. He's here saying, you're broken. I know you've been wounded. I know you fear. I know why you fear. And that was it. I was in fear. I was absolutely in fear. There was no judgment from him. All I felt was love and compassion. And he provided for me supernaturally in a way that I did not deserve. That is our God that we serve. That is our God that we serve. He really, really is all about healing us. So why am I saying all this? I was just jumping on because I just wanted to bring this up again, because I think it's something that's important to continue to talk about, to help people to see even salvation and what Jesus did on the cross as healing He healed us through the cross. He brought the opportunity for transformation through the cross. Like he showed us the passion of him was somebody who says, I won't stop. I won't reject you. I won't abandon you. I will go all the way to death. I will go all the way through that suffering. And I will not say no. I will not, what's the word in, what do they do in wrestling or, in fighting where it's like tap out. Like he won't tap out. He's like, no, I'm going to go through. He went through all the shame, all the embarrassment as he's naked there, all the spitting on him, all the people angry at him. And he just took it. He took all that. He took all sickness on the cross. He redeemed us there. He healed us. He offers it to us to say, hey, you were broken. You were wounded. But I came, and in place of that wound where you have been wounded in your heart by some form of broken love in your life, where somebody didn't show up, where somebody hurt you, and maybe it's because of their own brokenness. It's not to blame anybody, but he's saying, guess what? Your healing is in me. Your healing is in the fact that I care so much about you. I validate you. I honor your heart and that pain and that suffering that you went through. And I show you. I don't just talk about it. It's an act of being of his love that he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to show you, not just metaphorically going to the cross, a physical body, a physical man entering into all that suffering and all that shame and all of that, all the things and rejection that he faced. He's saying, I love you this much. Everything that we face in our bodies ultimately comes from deprivation of love. Deprivation of love. There's a book that I'm reading. I'm going to just read a quote from it. It says, the avoidance, rejection, or deprivation of love is the source of all functional, physical, psychological, and spiritual illness. It says, love heals. Healing is an integral part of human love. So healing is an integral part of human love. Where love is, healing is constantly occurring. This is from Pope Benedict in Jesus of Nazareth. It says, whoever wishes to heal man must see him in his wholeness and must know that his ultimate healing can only be God's love. So God's love allows us to grow. We get into disintegration when we're not in God's love, where there's been wounded things. Every single one of us has faced these things in our life because no one has had a perfect life. It is all about the way that your heart has interpreted it. And that disintegration that took place makes us less human, makes us less whole. Dis-ease in our bodies, distress in our bodies, which we know if you've listened to me long enough or done any form of research or brain retraining program, you're going to learn that almost every single illness that is out there is caused by stress. So distress, disintegration, disease, distress. And if anyone has ever experienced the love of another human being, that has put you in a place where you're carefree, you feel better, you're livelier, you're happier, full of energy. Is that not healing? I decided when I was first healing, I said, Lord, I want your love sung all the time in my life, because if I'm full of love, if I'm full of this honeymoon, I'm going to walk on water. I'm going to feel good all the time. And that was ultimately, I said, okay, I saw love as the antidote to sickness. I saw love, ultimately, authentic love from God. And he wants to use people. I'm not saying he doesn't. He wants us to, we need each other. We need him and we need each other. He made us with a need. That's the way he made us, for relationships. So there is human love, but it's never going to be perfect. You can pray for the right people to come in and love us perfectly, but anybody who knows that's had their trust betrayed, felt abandoned, felt left, abused by those close people, knows how hard it is to ever trust somebody again, and we put walls up. Oh, the depth of our souls, the depth of our souls. And he wants to restore integrity in that soul by healing you and letting you know your value, your worth to him. It's good that you exist. And no matter what you've gone through in your life, you might even think to yourself, but I didn't go through trauma. I only got physically sick. I guarantee you, if you are still sick after all this time of chronic sickness, maybe it's even the secondary wounds that came from getting sick in the first place and people not understanding, people not caring for you the way you needed. Maybe you had to manage on your own. There's lots of different ways that can end up also being an entry point for just some deeper ruts and us getting into more sickness as a result. The interconnectedness of our spirit, soul, and body is so profound. We are such a whole person, We cannot possibly look at ourselves and say, hey, this specific therapy or modality is the answer. Now, I'm not, again, denying that there's things that people can do that can help. But if we are continuing to have some level of dis-ease in our souls and our bodies, then I just ask you to consider that potentially there's a deprivation of love at the root of it all. And that receiving God's love might sound easy. It's actually not as easy as it really is. As I've learned, and many have learned, we have these resistances that we put up. As there's been wounds and lies, and even inner vows that we create of, self-reliance. We don't even realize to protect ourselves. I pray that somehow this lands and you see that you're not a moral failure. You've been broken. You've been wounded. And he wants to tend to your wounding so you can get out of the nest and fly again with him. I pray this blesses you. Just thinking in my heart as I'm just speaking here, if there's any little practical tip that I can give you other than be kind and loving to yourself. Really, truly, actively be willing to open your heart to say that maybe I'm better, more beautiful, more special, more worthy than I thought it was. Maybe God looks at me and he doesn't see the quote unquote sin, but he sees a beautiful child who's been sick and who needs help. Whatever it is that you face, my friend, I pray that you see that your identity is one of a precious, beautiful child that he adores. He adores. And you can come and bring whatever it is to him so he can love you through your healing. God bless you.